Welcome to Doesn't Matter. I can see in some ways why some people would have, especially the young, the Gen Zs, have a bleak view of the future. Certainly young men. I deal with young men a lot. I teach them, I train them, so I listen to them. And what I see are kids, to me, mired in a society that is caught in an unholy trilogy: screens, a deceptive wealth of options, and economic pressures that have never existed before. Those three things are crushing the spirits of our young men and women, and they are driving them apart. They are dividing them. They are creating the worst kinds of primal reflexes. Human beings naturally have hypergamy. Women seek out the best mates, men seek out the best mates. We naturally seek out the best mates we can. In today's environment, that's a fucking disaster, because people are not seeking out mates that are suitable to them. They're not seeking out situations that are suitable and healthy for them. They are simply seeking out the biggest, best and brightest option they can find, which in most circumstances is a disaster for that individual. Certainly the individual with the smaller amount of choice. In this case, young men are largely marginalised into a group that has very slim pickings in terms of statistics. We have an overwhelming number of statistics now, coming from just like dozens and dozens and dozens of very large scale studies that show that women are largely picking the top 10%. I used to think that was an exaggeration. It isn't at all. The empirical data shows it categorically. 90% of men are picking between a very small number of women, a much smaller number of women. So you've got young men and sort of working class men being marginalised, while rich, status orientated men are monopolising the vast majority of female choice. The problem being that the females are not getting what they want either. They're simply being utilised. That's the reality. It's a reality that culture, before it was destroyed, it should have been modified, not destroyed, before it was utterly destroyed by the feminists and intersectionalists. Culture understood that. We used to teach young women and young men about the traps of adulthood. And one of the traps was, yes, there's plenty of handsome, rich men out there who will never commit to you, who will never treat you like a real option, will use you as a pincushion. And unless you want to be used as a pincushion and be seen, often for the rest of your life, in such a light, then you want to conduct yourself in such a way as to align yourself with someone who will treat you well. And being treated well and being treated with respect and being valued and cherished was an important thing. Now, we don't have that anymore. We don't. It's hyper-agentic choice and nothing else. Now, when you pour that wealth of options and the inevitable monopolization that it's leading to, that I've just described, where most people are shut out from long-term relationships by either being a male or by being a female who's not a top sort of 8, 9 or 10, okay, who isn't likely to make the cut for a final choice by one of these chads, these brigands that are pillaging the majority of the female population, then it's looking pretty slim for the girls too, really slim. And at least with the guys, they just get left alone. But with the girls, No, they're going to be given hope, and then it's crushed, and hope, and then it's crushed, and hope, and then it's crushed over and over again. And then that's inevitable in the dating game to some degree. You date, it doesn't work out, you move on. That's a part of getting to know each other and a part of sorting those things out. But the plethora of choice and the optionality that the men who are chased by the majority of women have mean that this is now magnified. You put this whole process on steroids and made it thousands of times worse than it would normally be. We're not better off walking to a supermarket with 10,000 choices. Human beings have been shown that a minority of choices actually make us happier. We're happier when we have less choice, not more choice in this particular instance. And in many instances, it's the same. Giving people more choice just makes more indecision, more frustration, more regret, more choice regret. And they've done this in consumer studies over and over again, that when they increased the number of t-shirts that were available in a given study, people went from being quite satisfied with their choice most of the time when they only had 2 t-shirts to choose, and when they had suddenly dozens of t-shirts to choose from, many of them had choice regret. Like, it's irrational. It's completely irrational. But it's a feature of human nature. We are destroying ourselves with the wealth of options that we have. We are destroying our society. We are threatening the very existence of our species because so many people are not going to breed in this generation and the next. And then when you add in the death spiral of capitalism, you add in that redistribution has become less and less efficient, and more wealth is just being funneled upstairs into equity funds, sovereign wealth funds, and being kept by the wealthy. Excuse me, scam callers. Being kept by the wealthy. Then you're starting to create a real bottleneck. We are creating a massive sociological bottleneck, compounded by economic pressures, by the failure of capitalism to redistribute even remotely fairly for most people, and that needs to be adjusted, not burnt down where all the stupid communists and nutbags want. Fix it, tinker with it, make it work better. Don't scare off all the rich people. Don't attack all the rich people. They generate a lot of wealth. At the same time, the rich people, in some cases, need to pay a little more tax, need to adjust. And we've got to do so in such ways we don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. Common sense, balance, nuance, not black, white, stupid thinking. And then we've got technological changes coming up that are going to strip most people of their labour over the next 20 years. 25 years. So we've got all these enormous pressures crushing young people in particular, but pretty much everyone in the long run. And it's isolating people. It's making people lonelier than ever, and 8 billion people, more people are lonely than ever. It's dividing the genders. It takes people who really need each other and would function better working with each other, and it divides them along gender lines, along ethnic lines. And it makes us vulnerable to radical religions like Islam, or at least Islamism. I know plenty of moderate Muslims who are fine, but it makes them vulnerable to communism, to sort of hardcore anarchism, antisocial, destructive ideologies, or competing proselytizing ideologies like Islamism, like communism, that want to take over the world. You know, the Ummah, or the great People's Revolution, which always inevitably gets ruled by a few plutocrats. You know, it never changes. The pattern always returns to the same, because human nature is what it is. We're vulnerable to those things in light of all the pressures we're creating. We need to bring men and women back together. We need to deal with this wealth of options, which is an illusion. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. The number of people that any one of you could effectively produce a family with and have a happy life with is actually quite limited. There's not that many. Obviously, there's some, but it's not as much as you think. And it's not going to be with the most handsome, most beautiful, most whatever person. It's going to be with a person who presents a good synergy of values, a good synergy of traits that work with you. Your crazy matches their crazy. That's what I say often. Okay, it's got to be that. Not, you're not hunting. You're looking. Everyone's looking for unicorns to some degree, because finding someone that you can gel with at that level isn't easy. You can get on with lots of people for a few months, even for a year or two. Whether you can build a lifelong or very long-term relationship is a very different kettle of fish. That's an entirely different proposition. Living with someone and such, that's a very different kettle of fish. It's an order of magnitude greater choice, and it's not easy to find. And we've got to start telling people that that's what it is. If people knew that in that wealth of choice, especially for women who have a biological window, there's only so many fucking options that are going to work, and there are a lot less than they're probably less than 5%. All right, they would be more selective in their choices. They would be more protective of their time. Okay, hookup culture probably wouldn't exist except perhaps in the first few, sub 22, and then post 22, no one would do it anymore because it's too big a waste of your time. Your time is precious. Okay, and who wants to start up habits that you can't quit? Okay, going out and pleasing yourself. We all know the stories of the inveterate bachelor. Well, females have their own equivalent of that. If you run around and hoe till you're 30, there's nothing wrong with that. Go for your life if that's what you want to do. But if you hoe till you're 30 and then you think you're going to change, you're going to stop drinking too much, stop using recreational drugs, you're going to stop jumping on every cock that you like. Good luck with that. Good luck. The statistics don't support that. The numbers don't support that at all. You're probably going to return to it over and over again and destroy every potential relationship you might have because of it. Same with the guys who drink too much and think suddenly, when I find someone I love, I'll stop being an alcoholic. Good luck with that. Okay? I'll stop being a selfish poo and I'll suddenly become a self-sacrificing, fair, compromising person. They're not going to either. You've been black-pilled. You're not suddenly going to change the habits of half a lifetime. So no, we shape ourselves in our late teens to mid-20s often for the rest of our lives. The choices you make at that stage do have an impact later on, and a big one. So we need to be aware of that. That wisdom needs to come back into society. We need to consider that in an era of technological change, economic pressures that have compounded up enormously, enormous change. We need to think about what we threw away in the last few decades and what we need to bring back. We need to bring back some of the aspects of traditionalism, not all of it, because some of it was toxic as hell. But but we do need to bring back elements of it that kept people's heads in the clouds, but their feet on the ground. There's nothing wrong with dreaming, nothing wrong with ambition and inspiration, but your feet need to be on the ground while you're doing it. And we've got people floating around in the air like lost leaves, and we don't want that. That's not healthy. Keeps men and women apart, keeps society divided, produces less children, and that's really, really important. Not just from an economics point of view, but a society with less children is inherently a less healthy society in a variety of ways. Okay? We have no idea, except that we know that some of them will be very negative, of the impacts of having a society that just has way less children walking around. The hedonism, the selfishness, the hyperagentic behaviours, the rise in criminality that we've seen when it's been in isolated spots in society in the past, that's what we see come from low childbirth rates. So we need to be much more careful about the choices we're making. You're not just choosing what you do for tonight. You're choosing what is going to affect society, you and your folks, your friends, your potential children down the track. You're having a dramatic effect on everyone, and you need to think about that. Okay? Because if you don't, someone will think about it for you. This isn't going to be allowed to progress to its final catastrophic end, someone will take it in hand, and you won't like that. It'll be government. It'll be powerful interests that realize that their own interests are being harmed by your actions. And they will destroy your freedom. They will take your freedom away. All these men and women out here want to maintain your agency. If you want to maintain it, make better decisions. Make smart decisions. Stop being deceived by a supposed wealth of options. Pick sensibly, okay? Control yourselves. Don't be hedonists. Don't be selfish. Balance up your needs against the needs of others, okay? Sure, you should put yourself first, but it doesn't mean you should. But you've got to also think of others a lot, because if you don't, they won't think of you, and the benevolent cycle breaks, okay? We have to think of each other, consider each other. It's an important feature of what makes a healthy society. But if we don't do this ourselves, and from a libertarian perspective, I want us to do it voluntarily. If we don't do this voluntarily, at some point the state will do it to us. China's already started. They will do it to us. They will take your bodily autonomy away. They will make you get pregnant. They will make you do things. They will make you marry. You won't be able to earn money unless you do certain things. That's coming, whether we like it or not. And the only way around it is for us as a collective, as a series of groups and citizens, to do the right thing for ourselves, to respond to our better natures and do the right things ourselves, to be healthy, to be in balance. We need to make balance and harmony and unity and connection sexy again. We do. Because at the moment, all this pure selfishness and hedonism is going to lead us back to dictatorship. Okay? If you don't want to face a dictatorship in the 2040s or 50s that will constrict you in ways you would never have dreamed of right now, then start changing your behavior, start changing your patterns, drink less, eat less, exercise more, practice kindness, practice thoughtfulness towards yourself first, always yourself first, but then towards others as well. Okay? Reflect upon your decisions. And recognize that they'll never be perfect. You're not perfect, no one else is either. Oos.